You want to learn how to trade and learn from the best traders all over the world? Well, you came to the right place. TheBesTTraders.com is your #1 source for answers to the many journeys traders have gone through into becoming a profitable trader. Experienced futures trader, the Pivot King, Stephen Marcantonio, sits down with many of the best traders around the world. Now, here's your host, Stephen Marcantonio, the Pivot King.
Hello. We got TheBesTTraders.com episode 1. It's been about a year and a half. I stopped my podcast. It's just the market was going too crazy. I said I'm going to start up this podcast again. I'm very honored to have Ninja Bruce on the show. I've met Bruce maybe 4 or 5 months ago. Bruce is into blocks. I consider him a block specialist. That's why I call him Ninja Bruce. And we, as many people know, have been following me for a long time. We've always looked at block trades, dark pools. We religiously look at them because we'd like to see where the big money is positioning. So having met Bruce and seen Bruce's platform, which is Volumeleaders.com, I really loved his information and what he had to offer. And Bruce is an active participant in the Best Traders community and forum, and we're very honored to have him with his just his data. I use it. I use it religiously with my setups, as you're about to see in this podcast. So, what do you want to start with first, Bruce?
Well, first, the honor is all mine. Thank you for having me.
Thank
and
you,
why don't we start with what everyone's talking about, which is Natgas.
Natgas, which just went down 7%. We're doing this video, by
just
the way,
like every other Sunday.
So this is a 7% move. So I'm going to share my screen here, and let me know if you see my screen there, Bruce.
I see it.
Okay, so I just want to Natgas. Last week we did have a probable trade set up. I was long at 292 and 283, and I got out on Friday at 287. Said, you know what? I might as well get out an entry. Better to be safe than sorry. So we got a 7% gap down. I do have a setup of a T, which is at around 256. So I did put a probable trade setup at 256 is probably very high probability I'll get hit. Why I took it down as well with Bruce, you know, as well as UNG didn't have a nice block size, and looking at UNG in the charts, that wasn't there, and it got me. I was just looking for actually like 305 to take it down half, you know, a good maybe 20 points or so. But
yeah,
I saw it failing. I might as well get out an entry because, you know, the weekends they could gap it down, gap up hard, which they did.
Big
gap.
The telltale sign is always if they put a big block in right before futures close on Friday.
Exactly.
And they didn't do it, which was, to me, it suggested that it's not done bottoming. They're going to take it down again. Turns out that's exactly what they did.
Do you want to show some blocks, Bruce?
Yeah, let me show you what I have here. I got a few things I want to share. This is Natgas here, going back to the highs over the summer. And you can see we got a lot of big trades up here, several 1 million plus share trades. We got a steep decline, and then we started seeing some really big blocks down here, which really caught my attention. And if we look in a little closer, we see this 1 million block share, and then we saw a little bit of a rally that failed, and this is consistent with short covering. And then this one here really stood out. This is the largest trade in, forever. I think that was since 2009. It was 3.8 million shares, and I was hopeful that maybe this would be the bottom. And that failed too. And we're well below. We got another million about a week later, which we're also below. And we're even further below.
I'd just like to say $1 million is very rare for UNG.
Yeah, it is rare, and that's usually the magic number I look for. Usually $1 million is going to stop the move and turn it back, whichever direction it's going. And,
I think we're accumulating as well. This is basically
I'm concerned because this is such a huge trade, and we have just gone almost straight down since then, and we went down again tonight. So for me to feel like it's bottomed, I need to see a couple, at least one really big trade that holds.
Yeah.
But if we look at cold and boil, cold is I'm watching this closely because you can see all the trades, and these aren't that big, but they're there. They're all below price. There's nothing that suggests to me that they're done with cold. So I want to see some blocks come in on cold as sort of the first sign that they're slowing down. And then something in the underlying. And this is the last 1 million share trade in UNG from last week. And it's just
that million one.
It's just straight down. So I mean, it's come so far. It's really hard to believe it's fallen as far as it has, as fast as it has.
Well, I just want to add, it's the last time, it's about 30 years from what I was told.
Yeah.
Of a move down like this in that gas.
Yeah.
It reminds me of oil when it went negative. It's crazy.
It does remind me of that too. And it's unusual
10%.
because it's the only commodity that's falling. Everything else is going up. It's odd
You're
behavior.
getting 7 to 10% moves in that gas a day.
I
It's
know.
insane. It's insane.
So I think we're close. I don't know where it's going to stop. I don't know what it's going to take, but I want to see two things. I want to see cold. I want to see them really dump some cold up here.
Well, I'll make a prediction. I think tomorrow it hits 245 to 255, and we're going to get a million print in UNG because that area in my lower bands lined up with a T. It's a very, very good area. Like there was a 250 setup. Like I did a video a long time ago. I said from $8, this could go to 250. That was like 3 months ago. I didn't know it was going to go there in a straight line. Usually you get balances, right? So this area here is really if they take out 235, 240, then I don't know. I don't think the producers will want it that cheap. I think they're accumulating, my personal opinion, and I think they're going to fill the gap up higher.
I mean, it wouldn't be unheard of to buy on the way down, and maybe that's what's happening. This is unusual here because it popped that day, and then they hit it at the end of the day, and then it went down since then. And I wonder if sometimes if maybe this is the only time they could get sufficient liquidity to fill up that big, and that they're willing to take some heat on it. But we're $2 and change lower than this, and we're going to be even lower in the morning. So it's
they got the money to withstand that, right?
Yeah,
I think they're accumulating because this is just my opinion. Like you said, the liquidity factor. They've done so many margin calls there. They know exactly where to bring the price, and that 1 million shares they scooped up, and then they say, "Oh, these guys are going long," and they smashed them again because these Natgas guys, a lot of people that trade Natgas, they margin, and I don't think anybody should margin. That's how they get you. This whole market's about margin calling longs and bulls and bears.
I think the further it goes, more people think that they can take a stab at it, and it's getting awfully crowded. If you look at oil, I mean, look at all the volume we're seeing down here in Boyle, which people are, this is anecdotal, but just based on the posts that I see and the conversations I have, people keep taking shots at this. It's becoming more and more popular just because of how far it's fallen and how cheap it is. People get attracted. The timing of it is going to be really difficult, and they will, as you well know, will press you as hard as they can.
Especially Natgas.
It's tough. It's a really tough trade.
It's game. You want to move on to I guess gold? You want to do gold?
Let's do gold. Sure. Okay. I'll let you have the share back.
Where's gold? I put many where's gold? The share. I think this is it, right? Oops. Oh. 1 second, Bruce. Gold. Last week I was talking about gold and daily videos, and I don't like gold. I said that there's blocks on golds too near the highs, right near the T. I had 1969. I know John in the forum also posted 1969, and we're kind of together here. So if people that on the forum that listen to my daily videos, you'll know that I kind of warned you guys last week that gold is going to get the slaps. And we have that red bar here. It could still hit 1969 to the tick. It could still hit it. And as you well know, it matches up with my band, but it's falling. If it takes on 1930, as you can see from my oscillator as well, it's peaked. This puppy is going to hit 1850. That's my tell on on gold. But one thing with gold is I've been looking at the institutional, the blocks, and I see kind of a row of blocks at the top that are matching up with my T's and my bands where moves tend to terminate. So that makes a high probable setup for myself. And I don't like gold. I think gold's going to follow the market down. And that's what I'm seeing with gold, Bruce.
I'm bearish gold too. And I'll show you what I have on the blocks. There's a few things that are interesting. So the first thing is that this is the gold minis, GLDM. And this, for whatever reason, is bidding.
By the way, I don't know where you find these, Bruce. That's why I call Bruce Ninja Bruce. He said these some things he shows. I'm like, where does this guy?
I got it all.
He's like a Ninja Bruce. Like he'll come at you in the night. You know what I mean? It's beautiful, well, Bruce. I love when you find these things.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I've never heard of GLDM, by the way.
I
love what you have here.
I hadn't heard of it either till recently.
Love
and it popped up on my scanner and it showed that it had been getting some disproportionately large trades. And I thought, well, what is this thing? I looked at it. Lo and behold, it's gold minis, and it's been consistent. You can see some really large trades here at the lows, really large trades here at the highs, and these are consistent with selling. You can see the vol profile here. What's interesting about GLD is you're not, at least this time around, we're not seeing the really, really large stuff at the top like we might normally see. The tell for me has been in the minis. So we've got a few here and prices flattened out and we see some volume here, but these are smallish trades. If I hover over them, I mean, they're not small, but they're not, ranked in the top 100. They're not, many, they're not $1 billion trades, for example. These are about 100 million each. But the gold minis are telling me that they're distributing. And I think sometimes it's difficult to tell how they do it, but they don't always use the same instrument to accumulate and distribute. So sometimes it's ETFs, sometimes it's the underlying, sometimes
like to hide their tracks.
Yeah. So they find different ways to get the position they want. And I think they're sneaky. I think they're able to disguise it to some extent.
Yeah, they use IAU too a lot. Right?
Yeah.
IAU is huge.
We do see that too. What's also interesting about gold, and it's not exactly the same, but it counts, I think, is the miners are showing similar behavior. In fact, this is Nugget. I always say Nugget for whatever reason. This is the 8th largest trade right here at a high. It's slowed down. It's finally closed below that level. Whereas gold, this is Barrick Gold. This was a really, really big trade.
I remember that one you posted in the forum.
This was ranked 11th overall, and
that's big.
4.5 million shares. This is a really, really big trade for this miner. So, and there are other miners too. There's just a couple examples. What's interesting is GDX is not showing anything unusual. These are all, 2, 3, 4 million shares, but nothing is standing out. So the signals I'm getting are from the leverage ETF here and from GLDM here. So I think it's close. I don't know if we're going to necessarily see a really, really big block here in GLD. We might, but I think that they're making their point here. Price has stopped advancing. The big trades are coming in. These are all really, really large for the gold mini.
Yeah. See, this is where I like the information for myself and many on the forum, as you all know. That's one of the things why I like Bruce's. We in the forum, as you all know, Bruce, have been looking at blocks since 2016. So a lot of members in the forum already know what are big blocks on certain ETFs. Like automatically, we know 800K for USO and to 1 million is huge. We know because we've been looking at them all the time. But having, especially for newcomers that come in and having the data that you have, it helps people that want to get into look at these institutional trades because you by ranking them, you're educating them.
And that's what the whole purpose of this is to provide context. If there's one takeaway from any of this, it's to understand how big is big, how small is small, and find different ways to quantify these trades so that you don't just see a trade, it's 1 million shares, and jump to a conclusion about how big it might be. It's important to know where it ranks, this percentile, this is the cumulative distribution. You have relative size versus its average trade size. You have a rarity. You can see the last time a trade of a particular size printed, so you know that maybe it's not so big, but it's been 6 months, so that gives it a different sort of gives you a different angle to examine. So everything here is just context. The charts are nice. You can visualize these things, but it's important to know when a trade hits, what it really means, what it does suggest, and to know where you might expect price to go after that, or how you might expect price to behave. And after you start staring at this, and I know I don't need to tell you this, but you watch this long enough and patterns emerge. You start to see.
Yeah, they do the same amount of block prints too. With the same
like
numbers.
the 1 million UNG. Always 1 million right on the dot. I don't know what. That's the go sign right there. So
yeah.
Anyway,
the thing with when I first got into this one, and I'm sure now that you have this, people that first come into it, they have to understand that this is a piece of information. So what it is you got that big block on Barrick. So if gold went up another $30-$40, let's just say, they'll automatically look at you and say, you know what, you're wrong, Bruce. But what they don't understand is, listen, I'm not no foreteller. Bruce is not no foreteller. What we do is we take this data along with people in the forum, along with our charts, and we make a probable setup decision. Now, if we're wrong, just like Natgas, I think they're in accumulation mode. So here's a perfect example. If Natgas, those 1 million prints, and it went to, for example, those 1 million were, let's say Natgas was at 350, let's say, right? Mm-hmm. And then you have another million print at 2 on UNG at where Natgas was like at 290. And then another million comes in, let's say, where I think in 255, which is my T target. I think it's going to come in there UNG. Very high probable it does, because T's are very crucial. And they do come in at T's, as many people on the forum know. They match up like all the time, majority of the times. But if that happens, and then Natgas in 1 to 2 months, let's say goes to $5-6, that's a big amount of money they made. And how do they get those shares? Well, they made a straight line, people buying, get margin called, and the only way they could buy shares is to shake you out.
Yeah.
And I think they're doing a fantastic job.
They always do.
And it's they would be right. And that's accumulation, right, Bruce? I'm just saying, if it plays out like that, that would be an accumulation. Now, if someone says to block, it's 1 million. Oh, you told me you thought it was a buy, right? And it went lower and it came in again. But in the long run, it played out. That's why I'm saying that piece of information, along with other stuff, ended up happening, but people will automatically look at you and say, you know what, you were wrong there. This is not a trade. This is not something that I know that you see. This is not a trade. You're just giving this data to say, hey, look, there's something here.
Yeah.
What you do with the data is on you.
It's best as a complement to other tools.
That's right.
Take your own analysis, whatever methodology you may use, and there are many, and overlay it with the blocks and try and find out if institutions are participating where you think they should be participating. Because ultimately, it's the money that drives price one way or another.
Absolutely.
It's not a trend line. It's not an Elliott wave pattern. It's the actual influx of money pushing price one direction or another. So what you want to see is, in your case, for example, the pivots line up, and then you see a block, and that just adds a layer of confidence to your trade, and it gives you
how we use it.
Against which you can define risk. So you now know, here's a level that I can watch. Here's an area of interest, and then manage your trade accordingly, or get out of a trade. It just depends.
That's right.
But it's important that timeframes. You have to think about these timeframes, because sometimes you see a block, you think it's a sell, and maybe it is a sell, and price advances forward a little further, and people get upset and say, it was a sell. Why didn't price go down? And you have to remember that institutions are operating on different time frames. Selling sometimes takes time, depending on how far along in a rally you are, and vice versa for buying. So, intraday moves behave differently than large blocks at the close, for example. So you have to know where you are, what time frame you're operating in, and manage accordingly.
You know what I think, Bruce? I think people are looking for something, especially with trading, for something that it's like it's right in front of you, and it's like, for example, a big 1 million. They're just looking for something to say, hey, this is what you got to do. And
Yeah.
that's what they don't understand. My personal opinion with trading is it's all data points. And I love block trades. As you all know, I've been looking at them for a very long time. And that's why I was in, you came along and I was intrigued with the data that you had, because it's not just good for me, it's good for my members too, because we've been looking at these a long time. But I think people have a hard time understanding what blocks actually mean. And you nailed it. It's institutional, big money. And you said it clearly, big money runs this whole market. As simple as that. So if you want to figure out, you have options, there's so much different types of data out there now, Bruce. I could see so many people getting confused, but we like to keep it simple. I just personally use blocks. I don't look at options. I know many people do, but I just personally myself look at blocks, and I love them. So
I like them too, obviously,
because you spent all this time, people come to your site or come, you can come. The Best Traders has all this. Best Traders, if you're a member, by the way, you have access to Volumeleaders, because everybody on the forum, we use this data. So just I wanted to let you know that, but we use blocks religiously, and we're very honored to have Bruce in there, because Bruce has been looking at this for a long time as well. So we basically try to dissect the market. So I think people that come in there and want to really know what blocks, there's a block, so I got to buy because it's big.
Doesn't always work that way.
Exactly.
It can, and it sometimes does, but it shouldn't rely on it as the single signal or the single piece of information upon which you make a decision. It's just one part of the pie.
It's a big part of the pie for me. I like them.
I like to find confluence. I like to find some support or resistance level, and then an institutional trade that's sufficiently large that would suggest to me that a reversal is coming, for example. There are lots of different
things coming. And like you said, it could happen instantly, or it might happen a month, a week.
Yeah.
Okay. I
like
think
the
people
June low in the indexes, we could see them just enormous trades for 3 or 4 days. And then finally they had.
See, that's the problem I think with people, because I've seen some responses, Bruce, even to you, and they're like, well, it didn't work out. I'm like, and you're like, okay, the easy there. They expect it to work out because it's there within a day. But they don't know a couple of days down the road, it's way higher. It's like, it did work out. But if it was that easy, where this information is public and everybody could see it, then everybody would be doing it. You got to know, you got to spend time with this data. You got to take the time. You got to listen to the right people. Bruce is one of them. I'm one of them. But there's so many people out there that I personally think that look at blocks, my opinion, and don't know what the hell they're talking about. There's a lot of them.
It takes time. You start to, the more time you spend with it, the more like I said earlier, patterns emerge. You start to get a feel for certain things. You start to, in some ways, anticipate them. There have been times when you can just sense there's going to be a big block at the close. It's going to be larger than anything in 6 months. You can, in some ways, start to sense these things.
I posted in the forum too. If I have like SPXY, I was looking for Friday. I think it's coming, to be honest.
Yeah, it's going to
probably come Monday, but it's close.
Yeah,
close. Hopefully we get it.
It would make sense for them to print that between now and the Fed.
That would be the
close the books on it.
That would be the catch. Which brings me to you're sharing the screen right now, hey Bruce?
Let me stop. You can have it back.
Yeah, which brings me to NVDIA. You sent me. I asked you about semiconductors, and you sent me. I'm going to share my screen here. You sent me, and I'm going to put this on my site, by the way. Share 6. You sent me this. So here's NVIDIA, and it's confirming, because I do have a position in SOXS, as you well know. I'm underwater on that one right now, but I can't even believe it's reminding me I'm not gas. But here's an example. It makes me feel better where we get this data. right? And you looked at the three last days. You sent me this chart since 2021. Look how the blocks, basically, these are massive.
Those are huge.
Basically pick the top.
Those are
And
the
look at
three
down
largest in the history of NVIDIA, and they all.
exactly.
The first one came at the top. The second one was a short cover, I think, because we got a bounce and then it continued to fail. And the third one was a short, and I think the third one was after that March OPEX like mega rally in 2022.
Which leads me to believe that my position, which I still like, and I got a lower one at stocks at 19, but I think it's going to bounce Monday. But at 23.60, it's now. I'm going to bring up the chart now. But this tells me that I do have a target of NVIDIA at $62. I don't have these big blocks at the lows. So that tells
that chart
me
is only showing the top three. So we could I could tweak it and maybe we'd see something else. Can I share?
No, I'm looking for I'm thinking we're going to get these big bazookas somewhere at a low as well later down the road, right?
I think when it
if
finally
they're buying,
bottom, when it,
you know what I mean?
Good, whenever that
at least
day,
one of them,
yeah.
If at a 10 low, and I don't see it. That's what I'm trying to say is we got three big ones at the top, not even one big one at the low, which tells me NVIDIA is going lower. Which would help my SOX. It's giving me that info. My charts are showing me it's going lower, which I'm going to show you now. This is SOX, SOXS. As you can see from my oscillator, every time it hits my oscillator, as you can see here, boom. As you can see here, boom. As you can see here, boom. We're below my dotted line. We're in my band where moves tend to terminate. As many people know in the forum, we get very massive moves from there. The SOXS, there is some blocks because I did look at it lower on Friday at the low, and SOXL is also hitting the target. So we're in between from 19 to 23. I think we're going to get an explosive move to fill in my upper band. People that know that took the course, they know that my upper and lower bands fill. It could be 3 months, could be 2 months. They all fill. For example, this one filled, this low filled over here. People that have the charting software, you can go back and look at them. I told you I like $95 for SOXS. NVIDIA not having a big print at the bottom. AMD I also looked at. Intel's report. Intel reported last week their shares, their earnings were horrible. In fact, I think one of them said that their sales are falling off a cliff. That's coming off one of the phone calls I heard. The insider selling in NVIDIA, it's the most insider selling in the last 3 months. Their insiders are dumping like crazy. AMD, same thing. Intel, same thing. That's another thing I look at as insider sales. That is another piece of the puzzle that I look at as well, along with institutional buying with blocks. So SOXS, it might take some time, but I think next week for myself, I think it's going to, it's bottoming. What do you think?
We're close. I'm going to show you what I have on AMD here and NVIDIA. So this is AMD. This is goes back to October. And this print here, I've got this one isolated. It's so big and
it's massive.
It's
coming back up there, eh?
It's 235 times larger than average. 8 million shares, and this came right at the end of the month, right at the end of November. Excuse me. And what you can see here is prices creeping right back up to that level. This line here is the level at which that trade and other trades came in, and it is trying to test it. I think that this is a good place to look for a reversal. I'm waiting for a block to come in that's sufficiently large. When you zoom in a little further, this is just since January. This is a good size block. This is 3 million shares. It ranks in the top 100. It's 84th, and price is kind of oscillated here. It's struggling to get over that level. So this suggests to me that this is an important level on a smaller time frame. I don't know if it's going to continue up or not, but seeing a huge print like this at the end of a nice long move, that this is a 2-week move, and then price immediately retreats, this suggests to me this is a sell. Now, they may have more to sell. There's really no way to know how much they have and how long it'll take, but volume is up here. Price isn't advancing. We got this big print. It's consistent with the beginning of a trend change with regard to this one. So I don't know, obviously, how long it's going to take. But it does suggest to me that this 76 level, what is it, 76.53?
Strong
This
resistance.
is where they're starting to unload inventory. They've come up here a couple of times and tested and failed and tested and failed. So, I think that I think they're unloading in this zone.
I think so too. The semiconductors is crazy. It's like Natgas for fuck's sakes.
Yeah.
They do the same thing. They make really hard moves to the upside and really hard moves to the downside. And it's all about accumulating shares for major runs to the upside. And when they go upside and downside hard, they shake people out. I do have though insider, because I look at that stuff too. It is shocking that in the last 3 months, these guys are getting out. We're talking about like big time. It reminds me of Facebook, Zuckerberg. I think NVIDIA's too high, anyways, for what the company makes. To be honest, there you go. There you go.
Yeah. So here's NVIDIA on a smaller time scale. This is since October. We're not seeing large trades up here quite yet. I think it's reasonable to expect them to come soon. These are the 3 largest since October. So we got some here when price was topping out in this zone and it retraced and then it's taken another leg up. I think that it would be reasonable to expect some trades to show up here. Obviously, volume is a little bit light in this zone.
And next week's the week to do it, Bruce.
Yeah,
it's a crazy week. Next Fed, ECB, Bank of England, earnings, non-farm payrolls.
And I don't know when NVIDIA reports. I should probably check on that.
February 22nd, I think.
Oh, okay. So
it's quite a ways ago. It's quite a ways.
It may have further to run. It's hard to tell, but anyway, this is what it looks like on a smaller scale. It's difficult to know where they're going to pull the plug on it.
Well, I still think, my personal opinion, I still think those are sells. That's dumping into strength.
These here,
people know that, I've came up with that dumping into strength 6 years ago. I used to say it. And there's going to be a lot of dumping into strength. They've dumped into strength from what I've seen. The last 2 years, my personal opinion and experience, they've gotten so good, and they know people like me and you look at these blocks religiously, and they don't like us. I'm telling you, this is my opinion. It's just not my opinion. It's many people's opinion in the forum as well. They dump into strength now like crazy. Same way down to the when it goes down. And this market in the last 2 years is all about margin calling, and I'll say it again, longs, bulls and bears. And they go hard to the downside and hard. Sometimes though, Bruce, and from my experience, the blocks don't mark the low.
No, it's usually
at Natgas at 130 2 years ago. A block did not mark the low.
Yeah,
it missed the move. I missed the move of $3, and I said it's going to $4. I'm waiting for a block, and I'm thinking to myself, I hope they don't do this to me again with UNG, because they did it to us in the forum.
Yeah,
at the low at 130, there was no block at the bottom.
Well, that's the thing. But
there was a block higher, a little bit higher.
Yeah, a little higher.
Because
they can't fill them at the exact highs and lows because there's a liquidity there. So they have to fill them when they can.
That's right.
And they let price exhaust in either direction, and then you see the reversal.
It's that one there though. AMC did.
This is a really big one, and this was end of month, so you do expect elevated volume at end of month. But it's really big. 9th largest in its history. I don't know how long it's been trading, but a very long time.
That's big.
So, and it's a pretty clear sell. I mean, price runs right into it and it stops on a dime. And now it's coming back for the retrade or for the retest, which is always like, I'll be watching this line here, which tells you how much traded here. This is a trade cluster, and this is let's see, 76, 77, 60, 950 million traded up here. So
I guess you want to move. So basically, I'm still in SOXS. I plan on adding lower at 2210. I never showed my chart, or did I?
Yeah.
Did I show my chart?
I think you showed your chart. Yeah.
I did. Okay.
Yeah.
So basically 2210 is $1.60 lower. I don't know if it gets there, but it is in my lower band, and it probably looks like it might before the Fed meeting. And I like to see if we get big ass SOX blocks and SOXL, which is the opposite. I look at that.
Yeah,
too.
we got some big
I look at both.
SOXL on Thursday or Friday.
I seen it.
Price fell right off.
Made me feel better when I saw that.
Yeah.
I was like, oh yeah, okay. I'm on but I really like that NVIDIA chart you sent with those three biggest blocks.
Yeah.
That's
That's a really long time frame. So there's there's
I like to get one of those big ones at the lows, and we're not there. So
yeah,
I think we're going lower with the semiconductors. I don't know if it maybe next week, my personal, so I'm holding on strong. Let's move on to ES, S&P. What do you think, Bruce?
well, it's a murky picture from the blocks.
They're probably not done. That's why.
I think they have more
Fed meetings coming up, right? So,
you show yours, and then I'll show
Okay.
I'll show my chart when we're done.
I got ES here. Let me just put it up here. So this is basically the same chart in the daily video that I've been even on the weekend. So my lower targets are still intact. This is the same mapping I did before I left to Europe on December 11th. It's just been range bound, playing pivot to pivot. My upper band did move up here, and I said, oh God, we're going higher. Here we go. And it's resetting my oscillator. It's getting above my dotted line. When it gets above my dotted line, it's danger zone. So it's basically there. But as long as it stays below 4180, that's my line in the sand. And many people that have been listening to me for the last, all the daily videos, that's my line in the sand. But I've been taking longs as well, knowing that though the downside target is still intact. Notice my lower band is lining up with the B. Notice my T is lining up with the lower band. Very high probability. This is what I'm thinking. 41.17 is going to hold. This is what I'm thinking for the Fed. I think we're going to sell off starting tomorrow, Monday, into the Fed. Probably going to hit my L pivot. When Powell comes out with the rate hike at 2:00, I think it's going to pump. Probably hit my T, 41.17, and dump when he speaks. That's my prediction for the Fed. Basically, a pump, first dump into the Fed. Wednesday comes out, goes up. 41.80 stays intact, and we go lower. Trips these stops here, trips these stops here. So we are getting a VIX at a low right now. I don't know, people. By the way, next week is 5-year anniversary for Volumeleaders.
Oh yeah, Volumeleaders.
You know, Bruce, how things work.
Oh, I know.
You know how the boys work. They like to do.
I remember that. I remember vividly.
And they like to make things. You know what? If it happens, it's not. I'm not surprised if it were not because that's what they do. It's like 5-year anniversary of again. I don't know. The VIX is buried. Like
it really is.
It's decimated.
I continue to be amazed at how they're able to suppress it for so long.
Unbelievable. Exactly. So that's what I see for ES. I think we're going to hit up and hit 41.17. If it breaks 41.17, we're going to around 41.50, which 41.50, 41.55, but still keeps it under 41.80. That would actually bring my oscillator a little bit higher. And maybe then, Bruce, we might see some big ass blocks.
Yeah, I think we're still waiting for those blocks for at least in SPY. What you can see here is this one here was really big. This was on that spike before whatever that was, CPI or PPI, I can't recall. We had some good selling. We've got this base. They spent 2 weeks down here basing, and price has gone up obviously since. What's difficult is that these don't yet suggest that they're done. We're not seeing large blocks here at the high. We've got 5 large clusters here below. So a lot of inventory was traded down here, and price is now, or has at least tested this pre-market spike from December 12th or 13th, whichever day it was, 13th, I think. So I want to see some more heavy selling up here. I want to see them put in a trade cluster that's in the range of the size of these guys here. We've got 9 billion, 7 billion, 7 billion, 6 billion, 6 billion. So these 5 lines, there's a lot of inventory that was traded down here. I would like to see them, maybe it'll happen here at 410. this spike here, this was all pre-market and there was no liquidity, so it's difficult to really.
Bruce, do you remember that block I think you shared in the forum that it was I think it was SPDR, no, the biggest in history, right? This was maybe 2 weeks ago or a week ago. Do you remember that one? Was it SPDR?
Oh, was it SPHQ? SPHQ.
Was it SPHQ? That was the
biggest.
That's
one of those ETFs that's I call them SPY proxies. There are dozens of these things that are comprised exactly like SPY, but they're lower liquidity and they're priced differently. So, and I think they hide in those too. And it's difficult to anticipate what SPY is going to do sometimes if you don't see the blocks. But you'll see sometimes these blocks and these other things. VTI is one. There are a whole bunch SPYG for growth and SPYD. There's a bunch.
I don't know where you find these, Bruce. Oh, I like them. I like Ninja Bruce. That's why I call it.
I made it my
Ninja
business.
Bruce. I love it. But
well, to be honest, I hadn't heard of a lot of them before I started doing this either. You just end up finding these things and
which you have access to. Like I look at the trades, the disproportionately large trades, and that's like a scanner for myself too. And I look at it. I usually look at it at 5 p.m. Bruce.
Yeah,
myself,
I like
because
to look
that
at
futures is closed too. And then I look at what you post too, and I'm like, oh god damn, where do you find this one? I didn't see that one, but and I map it, and I'm like, oh, I like that. But here's you want to bring up Apple maybe because I'm gonna share my screen. I'll show the post.
Yeah,
you did a post. I think it was in reply to. Here, I'll share my screen. And was it this one? This is a post. I did the daily video on the weekend. Let me know if you can see my screen.
Yeah, I see it. You're good.
So I think it's this one here.
Yep.
Where you talked about Apple and you have the chart. There it is. Look at that. Like that.
So that's showing this level.
Fucking resistance, boy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's sold into that a bunch of times.
That's beautiful.
Those three lines together, they kind of look like one because they're so close, but those three lines that look like one dark blue line, those are the three clusters all in that 146 to 148 range.
Beautiful.
And we just tapped that again.
There it is. Like see this data. See, someone over here, you'd be like, hey, you go short. And then they automatically see this, right? And they'll be like, oh, you're wrong. But look, it goes back up, right? But look at the down move from here, right?
Yeah, so, once they finally distributed all that inventory,
exactly,
price finally let go. Now they've come back up to test. We got almost $1 billion in one trade on Friday. There's a bunch of other smaller ones that came in. But I think they need to unload more inventory in this zone if they intend to turn it back, which you can never really truly know.
There's tons of inventory in that bowl.
Yeah, everything that they bought,
like 8 million prints, 11 million. Yeah, the 8 million small towards Apple. I've seen Apple have 13 million, 14 million. That's rare, but
yeah. One of the stats I'm working on that I mentioned in this post is frequency statistics, so we can know.
I like that.
$1 billion trade comes in. Is that big? How often does it happen? When was the last time it happened? Some of this stuff is on the site now, but some of it is like we don't know that it happened 15 times in the last month, for example. If it did, you would not assign as much credibility to a trade if it was relatively common, even if it's as big as $1 billion, which is a lot of money. Apple obviously pushes everything around, all the indexes around. It's the most heavily weighted component. So I have to assume that they picked up a ton of it between 125 and 150, and that there's a ton left to be distributed.
I have Apple at right now at 147 was resistance, which it stopped to the tick there. I have Apple at 150.50. So as a T there, which matched my upper band.
Could hit it.
I think that's the ending for it. Yeah. Considering what I'm seeing there, and it's getting above my oscillators. So Apple's dying out, and maybe Thursday's earnings on Apple. Maybe it hits it right there on earnings. Like it likes to do. It likes to pick tops and bottoms on earnings too. Sometimes those are usually lows and tops, right?
It's important, I think, to observe how it behaves between now and then. If it sits in this range and we just keep getting large trades, while the price doesn't really change that much, then you can assume they're de-risking before earnings.
Yeah.
if you get something other than that, well, we'll have to see. But
Well, it doesn't have that much room, according to my charts. Like 150. Like I don't know if you've seen the post on the Tesla, the 103. We nailed the bottom, right?
I did.
And I
See
call that sweet spot 103 in Tesla. It's on my Twitter. 103 sweet spot. A lot of people took that. I took it too. 102.80 was the low, and we just got an 80% move on it, right? So that was lining up with a couple blocks too on Tesla I was looking at. But 103 sweet spot was another example of where the block didn't actually mark the low. But there was footprints. And that's why I'm saying people, when you're looking at block trades, like don't expect block trades is a piece of information such as what Bruce is showing you. Look at my screen. Like, do you understand? Like, look at this. Sometimes that's a beauty. When you look at that, you're like, there is severe, strong resistance here. Now you have to understand, and that's where I'm here. Bruce is there to help. So if you're in the forum and you have questions, post it. We're here to help you too, right? And that's a perfect example of where it could take some time, but we'll see how this plays out down the road. I think Apple's going to get the slabs along with some other big things, which I've already had. Meta got destroyed.
Well, let me show you what I have on Tesla since you brought that up.
Yeah, I know that you showed me.
Everybody wants to hear about Tesla every day. I get that.
That's actually hitting the target of mine too. 177. It hit and it's stalled there right now. I think that's where the block came in too.
This big block came in right at 178 about, and it's the largest trade in Tesla in a while since December OPEX. And what's
it's going to get the shots.
It's not OPEX. This is a lot of volume on just a regular day. So, and I was watching the order book when this came through too. There was a big iceberg at 180, finally got filled, and then price eventually pulled back just a tiny bit. Yeah. But this is a substantial trade. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to stop in its tracks and reverse, but it does suggest that they took some profits here.
Well, it did hit our pivot. 177 was our 177.50. So that institution came in right at our pivot. One of our T's.
Yeah.
Direct, like line in line.
And if you look at the RSI on this too, I think it's overbought on the hourly. I don't remember if it's overbought on the 4 hour or the daily, but if it isn't, it's close. I mean, they've just been buying. It's like 50% gain in like a week and a half or something, 2 weeks maybe. It's
crazy.
It's not sustainable.
I got out at 154 and I said, "Oh, this
probably felt pretty
pull
good
back."
Too.
And I said, "If it takes out 154, it's going to 177," and it's there.
The only other thing that's a little bit concerning if you're bearish on this chart is there isn't a whole lot. Of here. You know, they picked up a lot down here. So maybe this will be another scenario where they have to spend some time in this zone,
dump more.
Or the Teslas sometimes just behave like a meme stock. Who knows? For all I know, maybe they'll just run another 10 or 20 bucks. It's hard to tell. But this is at minimum some kind of profit taking. Doesn't mean prices definitely going to turn.
I think so too.
But it ought to slow, even if it does overshoot a little further.
I have a target for Tesla at. I think it gets there, to be honest. Let me double check where I have it at. 188 I have for Tesla above 177, 188, which I think hits. And then that's going to probably get clobbered from there. But anyway, I have my lower band. I got $90 for Tesla.
Yeah.
And below that, there is ones below. This might scare people, but this would be a scenario where there's basically a crash. I got 65.
Yeah.
That would be low-hanging fruit for me. 65. I think the only way it would get there is if there's something more severe in the market, right?
Yeah.
And there would be low-hanging fruit across the board. I guess let's wrap it up. And I got a couple questions. Who's sharing right now, Bruce?
I just stopped the share, so no one's sharing.
Okay, so Quick questions. I want to make some predictions. Okay.
Okay.
What do you think's going to happen Wednesday? This is a
This is a
crazy week.
crapshoot, man.
That's
I
why I
don't.
wanted to do this show, Bruce. This is one of the most craziest weeks, and I don't even. I think this is the first time the Fed, the ECB, and the Bank of England are doing the rates, along with earnings on Thursday. We got Apple.
Apple's Thursday, yeah.
Amazon, I think, on Thursday too.
The timing is tough, but I think
crazy.
they're running it up into an event. It's hard for me to see it advancing materially further than this without at least some kind of a retrace or a pullback first. And it's a tough call. I think I have to assume that some kind of selling is going to happen on or before Wednesday or Thursday between Apple.
I think so too.
But I can't possibly guess. I'd have a much clearer picture. I think by Tuesday's close, we can start to see what the institutions are doing, how they're positioning themselves before this. Yeah. That'll be, I think, the kicker. If we don't see blocks, if it's really light up at the highs, assuming it stays at this level or near it, if it's really light, they're not done. They want to take it further. And if we see the really, really big trades, that suggests to me that they're just about done. So.
Gold, Bruce.
Gold lower. I think it's close. And it might not move until the Fed says whatever they say.
Yeah, but, everybody's waiting for the Fed.
I think gold is clearer to me than ES. I think it's going to turn down.
Me too. I'm like, so I didn't take that short in gold, and silver. I've been looking for silver, getting the shots too.
And silver hasn't printed a big block yet. I'm expecting a 2 million block in silver before it turns, and I haven't seen that yet. So
it's breaking down, but like I said, the Fed could pop it, right? And how many times have you seen the Fed pump and dump on the Fed day? It's green, and then it closes red. When he speaks, when he starts speaking at 2:30, the market's getting crushed.
Yeah,
I don't know. They have so many games these guys play, and that's why I say to everybody listening, look, I want to wrap it up with this. Blocks are a piece of information. It's very vital. I use it in my arsenal. Like I said, the people in the forum, they tend to pick up on blocks like, Max. I don't know if Max in the forum is one of them. John, Michael, these guys have been looking at it just like I've been looking at it for 6 years. So we pick up on it right away. But people that are new and having the data that Bruce offers to the best traders, it makes your pathway much quicker to understanding how blocks actually work. All I could say is be careful. Just because you see something big doesn't mean you click the buy button. You have to take that probable data and use it along with other stuff. That's what I recommend. That's what I do. And that's what everybody in the forum does. And that's what I portray with blocks. I've been working with block trades for a very long time. And like you said, sometimes, Bruce, you feel something, we're going to get a big ass block at the close today. And so, sometimes I'm right, sometimes I'm wrong, but I'm close. Yeah. I still think SVXY comes in next week.
I think so too. It would surprise me if it didn't. It's been a long time since we had
crazy.
That really big one.
No, that thing's dormant.
2 months.
Yeah. We did have a big trade though, Bruce, on SVXY.
Yeah, we got the number one trade, the largest ever, back in. It was in the fall, September, October, somewhere in there. I can't remember the exact time frame, but I remember thinking they were done, and they weren't. They cranked it up. Yeah. That was a buy.
But do you see that print is along with NVDIA at the top, Apple at the top? That SVXY is lining up with a lot of the fangs. I'm serious, because they dropped in October, September, November, right? That big drop there. And that's where the SVXY print came in. So maybe they said, you know what? Too many people are short. Let's ring them, which I think they did.
It's really hard to say. The other thing I want to add about blocks just in general is that I find they're not always the entry signal. They're the exit signal. They don't, you see a block, it's not, you see a block at a high, for example, it's not an invitation to jump in short. It's more of an invitation to close your longs if you have them, or trim, or hedge, or protect them, or find a way to, protect them, or get out entirely if that's what you want to do. It's not always like, well, it's going to turn on a dime right here. It does occasionally happen. It happens on smaller time frames, but if a rally's been going for a month and you see a big block at a high, you shouldn't expect the next morning we're going to have a 1% lower. You should expect that.
Sometimes it does happen. It does happen
occasionally.
Sometimes it does.
But you shouldn't expect it.
Yeah.
You should expect, like, all right, they're going to churn a little bit. They've got a lot of inventory to get rid of. It's going to take some time. And then you start to look for the opportunity to take a position in the other direction.
And I want to add, just like everything in life, like it takes time. If you expect with this data, because I can see some people, Bruce, like when you open, people expect something where you have a silver platter and say, yeah, this is it.
Mm-hmm.
You have to spend time with anything you do. I've spent, I don't know how many hours with my own system, basically.
Yeah.
Took me forever. You've spent, I don't know how many, you've told me.
Countless.
Thousands of hours.
Easily.
Like, and you like that you're sharing, but people sometimes expect things the next day. It doesn't work like that. It's pieces of information. I'm very honored, Bruce, to have you in the forum, by the way.
Thank you.
I've told you many times.
I'm
Bruce,
honored to
if
be
you
here.
want to see Bruce, if you want, Bruce has the website, volumeleaders.com. You could also follow him on Twitter at Volumeleaders. He gives good information out there. He's active in my forum, The Best Traders, and I'm honored to have him in there. He's one of the contributors. And since I think you've been there for about a month now, no, Bruce?
Yeah, a month, something like that. Yeah.
And since that, I've taken a liking to it, and many people in the forum. So it's good to have someone that Ninja Bruce, which I call him. It's good to have Ninja Bruce. Sometimes he posts
Just
those
Bruce.
things. You post those setups, and I'm like, where the hell did this guy find this one? So one of them I remember was Krispy Kreme. And I got hit. I'm like, it's posting Krispy Kreme. I'm like, oh, wow. And you know what? Asaf took a short on that. He's like, yeah, I hit it.
Oh, that's great. That's awesome.
This
Good for
guy
him.
hit Krispy Kreme. I'm like, oh,
Yeah, I don't care personally.
You're right.
Like, some people get attached to certain names. They only want to trade Tesla. They only want to trade Apple. I don't care. I'll trade whatever, wherever the money is. It doesn't matter to me.
And that's experience, by the way, what you just said. See, I used to be one of those guys where you're married to a position years ago. Yeah. And then you get to grow. You start finding, okay, am I here to make money? Am I here for pride? Or am I here to make money? Well, the bottom line is you're here to make money. Yeah. If you're here to impress somebody or someone, that's not the way that's not the way it works. Yeah. You trade to make money, and that's the bottom line. So when we seen Krispy Kreme, I was like, oh wow. Was a beautiful setup. It was a huge block too, and it got pounded.
Some of the best
another one
setups.
was Play. Do you remember Play?
Yeah, Dave and Buster's. Yeah, I remember that.
Dave and Buster's got the shots. I'm like, guys, this is a nice short bow. But I like it because it lines up with what we're looking for in the form.
Yeah, confluence. You want to see that confluence. More than one methodology. Yeah, arriving at the same conclusion. That to me gives me a lot of more confidence. If they're trying to shake me out, I feel more comfortable sticking around a little longer. Maybe my position size is different, but it's, I like to see any 2 or 3 or 4 of them, the more the better. But it really, really helps when you have data that fits with your thesis, and then you can use it to trade.
Yep. Well, Bruce, this is, I told you I wanted to do my first episode with you.
I appreciate
it. This is my first. There will be a lot more episodes, guys, coming down the road. I plan on maybe doing 1 or 2 a month, but there are people that I'm going to pick. Like I said, this is not like any other podcast where I just bring somebody on because he has a lot of followers, or just like any other podcast. That's what they do. They bring on people. They probably don't even look at them. They automatically look and say, oh my God, this guy has a lot of people. Let's bring him on. I'm going to be targeting people that some have 20 followers, because I've been looking at them and I know that they're good traders. I know that they manage risk good. I know that they they love what they do, because in trading, I don't care what anybody says, you got to love trading, because if you don't love it, you're not going to do very well. I can tell you that. I love what I do, Bruce. I'm sure you love what you do, or else you wouldn't be putting those amount of hours into your site. Like I said, it was an honor having you.
Thank you.
And you know, I love your posts, and I love you being a part of the Best Traders community. And I'm sure many members in the forum, they've told me they really liked you because they know blocks too. They've been with me a lot, like from 6 years, looking at these every day. You pick up on things, right? And having you in there, it's just feels good because of your data, right?
Yeah. Well, I hope it helps. I'm glad to be there. I appreciate it. And you have lots of really, really good traders in that forum, and I learn from them as much as they learn from me. So I'm happy to be there. It's awesome. All around a great experience for me.
It is, and it's a great experience for you for you being on there too. But I just want to thank you again, Bruce. And guys, stay tuned for my next podcast. It's probably in about 2 weeks, maybe. And that will be a surprise guest. But like I said, I wanted to start off with Bruce, Ninja Bruce. That's my word for Bruce. Ninja Bruce. Ho, ho, ho. And Bruce, have a good trading day.
Thank you. You as well.
Next week, because next week is going to be insane with the amount of news coming out.
It's going to be wild.
Take care, Bruce. Take care, guys. Oh, by the way, guys, please share this video. Please click the notification, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Just like I said, there's going to be a lot more shows coming down the road. Take care, guys. Brush your hair. To the tick, Bruce. Take care, buddy.
Take care. See you.
Bye-bye.